All right, let's dive deep into all this coffee research you sent over. We've got studies, articles, even some personal anecdotes in here. Looks like someone's trying to figure out if their daily coffee habit is a hero or a villain.
It's definitely a mixed bag from what I see. Not a simple good or bad answer when it comes to coffee. Your sources show some surprising benefits, but also some potential downsides.
Yeah, I noticed a recent study you included from the Journal of the American Medical Association, and it's suggesting coffee, even with sugar, might be linked to, get this, a lower risk of death.
That study's pretty fascinating. They followed a huge group, over 170,000 people for years, and did find a connection between drinking coffee and lower mortality rates. But gotta be careful with these things. Correlation doesn't always mean one thing directly causes the other, right? Still need more research to figure out what's really going on.
Right, of course. But even so, the findings are pretty intriguing, especially this sweet spot they talk about, like a certain amount of coffee where the benefits seem strongest.
Yeah, for black coffee, it seems like 2.5 to 4.5 cups a day was linked to the lowest death rates. For coffee with sugar, the range was a bit lower, 1.5 to 3.5 cups.
So it's not just about guzzling down as much coffee as you can, it's finding that Goldilocks zone, the just right amount. Honestly, what surprised me most was the sugar-sweetened coffee thing. I always thought sugar was the bad guy when it came to coffee.
I mean, too much sugar definitely isn't good for you, but in this study at least, a moderate amount didn't seem to cancel out the good stuff. Not saying everyone should start loading up their coffee with sugar now, but it does make you think twice about sugar always being the enemy.
Yeah, moderation in all things, right?
Eh.
What about decaf? Does it offer similar benefits, even without the caffeine kick?
Surprisingly, yes. The study found a similar U-shaped relationship with mortality for decaf drinkers, too. So it seems there's a sweet spot for decaf consumption as well.
Wow, it's wild. Must be something else in coffee besides caffeine. Do us some good.
That's what researchers are trying to figure out. Your sources point to a few possibilities. One is polyphenols, those powerful antioxidants found in coffee beans, particularly one called chlorogenic acid. They're being studied for their potential to protect against disease and boost overall health.
So, are those polyphenols like tiny ninjas fighting off bad stuff in our bodies?
Pretty much. Think of them as your cell's little bodyguards, protecting them from damage.
I also came across some info about how the whole ritual of coffee might have psychological benefits, the comfort, the routine, the social connection.
Absolutely, that daily routine, that moment of peace, even just the smell, all that can have a big impact on our sense of well-being. It's more than just the drink itself, it's the whole experience.
Yeah, starting to see why coffee's been such a big part of cultures for centuries. It's not just fuel, it's a social thing, a comfort, and maybe even a health boost. But gotta be realistic, your research also mentions some downsides to coffee.
Right, like any substance, it can have negative effects if you overdo it, or if you're just sensitive to certain things in it.
So what should we be looking out for? What are the red flags?
Well, one common complaint is stomach problems. Coffee can increase acid production, which can make things worse if you already have issues, like heartburn or acid reflux.
Yeah, I've experienced that myself a few times.
Yeah.
What about coffee messing with iron absorption? Heard that's a concern, especially for women.
It's true. Tannins in coffee can bind to iron in food, make it harder for your body to absorb. So if iron levels are a worry, best to have your coffee at least 30 minutes before or after meals.
Good tip. Now, caffeine toxicity. Seen those stories about people going overboard on coffee?
Well, moderate amounts are generally safe for adults, but too much can lead to caffeine toxicity, jitteriness, anxiety, even worse stuff like tremors, heart palpitations, and of course, trouble sleeping.
So it's a balancing act, finding that sweet spot between enjoying coffee and not going overboard.
Exactly. Plus, everyone processes caffeine differently. Body weight, genetics, even medications can affect it.
Speaking of individual differences, our sources mention coffee disrupting sleep, even if you don't drink it late in the day.
That's because caffeine hangs around in your system for hours. It has a half-life, the time it takes for your body to get rid of half of what you consumed. And that varies from person to person.
So that afternoon coffee could be coming back to haunt you at bedtime.
Exactly. If you're sensitive to caffeine or struggle with sleep, better avoid coffee later in the day.
This is all super helpful. Seems like the main takeaway is to be aware, pay attention to how your body reacts.
Couldn't agree more. Coffee's powerful stuff, both good and bad. It's about finding that balance that works best for you.
Well said. Now, I'm ready for the fun part. Let's talk about the coffee itself. The beans, the roasts, the brewing methods. What makes each cup taste so different?
You're in for a treat. It's a whole world of flavor waiting to be explored. From bean to cup, let's uncover the secrets of that perfect coffee experience.
So we've got the science down, but now I'm really craving a cup. And not just any cup. I want to know what makes certain coffees taste so different. That's like wine, right? There's a whole world beyond just coffee.
You got it. Just like wine, coffee beans carry the story of where they're from, the soil, the climate, how high up they're grown, even how they're processed. It all affects that final flavor in your cup. It's called terroir. That's why a coffee from, say, Ethiopia will taste totally different from one grown in Sumatra.
Terroir. Okay, I'm adding that to my coffee vocab.
Yeah.
So starting with the beans themselves, I know there's Arabica and Robusta. Are those the main ones?
Those are the big two, yep. Arabica is the more popular one, makes up about 60% of what's grown worldwide. It's known for those smoothie, more complex flavors. You often get hints of chocolate, caramel, nuts, even fruit. Plus, it's got a bit less caffeine than Robusta.
Ah, so that's why those fancy coffee shops always brag about using 100% Arabica. They're going for that refined taste.
Exactly. Now, Robusta's a different story. It's bolder, more bitter, and packs a bigger caffeine punch. Often used in blends to add some intensity or make a coffee taste fuller.
I've heard some people say Robusta tastes like burnt rubber. Is that true, or is that just coffee snobbery?
Well, it's a bit of an exaggeration for sure. Robusta does have that earthier, sometimes harsher flavor, but it can be really enjoyable, especially if you want a strong, bold coffee.
Gotcha. So Arabica's for the subtle stuff, Robusta for a wake-up call. But back to those regional flavors, what makes coffee from, say, Ethiopia stand out?
Ethiopian coffee is famous for its brightness, that vibrant acidity, and fruity flavors. You often get these floral notes, too. It's like a taste of the tropics in your cup. Part of that comes from the high altitudes and volcanic soils where it's grown.
Sounds delicious. And what about Sumatran coffee? You mentioned it earlier.
Sumatran coffee is known for its full-body, earthy flavors, often with hints of spice and dark chocolate. It's a darker, richer taste, quite different from that brightness of Ethiopian coffee.
Man, this is making me want to travel the world just for coffee tasting.
Oh.
But before we book those flights, let's talk about roasting. I know that plays a big role in the final taste, too.
Absolutely. Roasting is where we take those green coffee beans and turn them into the aromatic, flavorful ones we love. It's a delicate process, control over the temperature and how long the heat's applied. That influences all the chemical reactions inside the bean, unlocking those unique flavors.
So it's not just about blasting them with heat. It's a careful dance of time and temperature. I know there are different roast levels, from light to dark. How does that change the taste?
Light roasts, they're roasted for a shorter time at lower temperatures. They usually have higher acidity and those more delicate, subtle flavors. They really let the origin of the beans shine through, like those bright, fruity notes in Ethiopian coffee.
So light roast if I want to really taste where the coffee's from. What about those classic coffee flavors like chocolate and caramel? Do those come out more in darker roasts?
You got it. Medium roasts, roasted a bit longer and hotter, develop more caramelized sugars and a fuller body. That's where you start getting those richer chocolate, nutty, and caramel notes.
Love those. And then there's the dark roasts, the ones that really get you going in the morning.
Dark roasts are roasted the longest and hottest, so they have that bold, intense flavor, sometimes with smoky or slightly bitter notes. You often see that sheen of oil on the surface, a sign of all those caramelized sugars.
I always thought darker roasts had less caffeine.
That's actually a common myth. Darker roasts might taste less acidic or bright, but they often have slightly more caffeine because the beans lose mass during roasting, which concentrates the caffeine.
Oh, that's surprising. Guess I'll stick with my dark roast for that extra boost. Okay, so we've got beans roasting, but there's one more piece. Brewing. How does the brewing method change how the coffee tastes?
Brewing is where the magic happens. We take those delicious compounds from the roasted beans and turn them into the drink we enjoy. The method you use makes a huge difference in the flavor, aroma, even how it feels in your mouth.
So it's not just about good beans and the right roast. You need the right brewing technique, too. Let's talk about some common methods. What's the deal with drip coffee? Seems like the most popular way to brew at home.
Drip coffee is definitely convenient, but it's not always the best for getting those nuanced flavors out. The water temperature and how long it touches the coffee grounds can vary, so the taste can be inconsistent.
So for a more controlled, flavorful cup, there are other options.
Yeah.
What about pour-over coffee? I see those fancy setups at coffee shops.
Pour over is all about precision and control. You slowly pour hot water over the coffee grounds in a filter. The barista can adjust the water flow and how long it takes, which gives you a cleaner, brighter cup. The flavors and aromas really pop.
It's like a slow, careful process, like a coffee ceremony. What about the French press? I like how simple it is.
The French press is a classic for a reason. It's what we call a full immersion method. The coffee grounds steep in hot water for a few minutes before you press them down with a filter. This gives you a richer, fuller cup, feels heavier in your mouth too.
I've heard French press coffee can be a bit gritty. Is that true?
It can be, yeah, the filter doesn't catch all those tiny coffee particles, so some end up in your cup, but a lot of people actually like that extra texture.
It's all about personal preference, I guess. What about espresso? That's a whole different world, right?
Espresso is like concentrated coffee. We force hot water under high pressure through finely ground beans. It's known for its intense flavor, that rich crema on top, and it has more caffeine than other methods.
It's the base for so many delicious drinks, lattes, cappuccinos, macchiatos, so many options.
Exactly. The world of espresso drinks is huge. So many combinations to try.
Making me want to go on a coffee crawl and try all these different brewing methods. Any other ones we should know about?
We've covered the main ones, but there are tons more out there, each with its own quirks and flavor profiles. There's the AeroPress. It's portable. You use your hand to press the coffee. Makes a smooth, strong cup.
Sounds interesting. And what about cold brew? I love how smooth and refreshing it is.
Cold brew is all about slow steeping. We soak the coffee grounds in cold or room temperature water for hours, usually 12 to 24 hours. This gives you a less acidic, naturally sweeter coffee with a really smooth texture.
It's like the slow cooking method for coffee. This is also fascinating. I had no idea there was so much to learn about brewing coffee.
It's amazing how much creativity and passion goes into making coffee. Every step, from the bean to the roast to how you brew it, changes the final taste.
Speaking of the experience, we've talked about the science, the flavors, the methods, but I'm curious about coffee's cultural side too. It's more than just a drink. It's a social thing, a global product. It's part of history.
You're right. Coffee has a rich and fascinating story to tell. It spans continents, cultures, centuries. It's time to explore how this drink has shaped our world.
Wow, it's amazing how much there is to coffee when you really start digging in. We've covered the science, the flavors, the brewing, but what really gets me is the cultural side of it all. It's so much more than just a drink. It's like woven into societies everywhere.
You're absolutely right. It's a connector, brings people together. Think about those old coffee houses in London back in the 1600s. They were like the social media of their time, hubs for debate, politics, even new ideas popping up.
It's funny to picture those places buzzing with activity, all fueled by coffee. Just like our cafes today, seems like that social aspect hasn't changed much.
Not at all. Whether it's catching up with a friend over a latte or that quiet moment in the morning with your favorite mug, it's about connection. And these traditions go way beyond our own culture. There are fascinating coffee ceremonies and rituals all over the world.
I'd love to hear about some of them. What makes them so special?
Well, in Ethiopia, where coffee first came from, they have this traditional ceremony called buna. It's a whole experience. You roast the beans over charcoal, grind them by hand, then brew it in a special clay pot called a jabina.
It sounds so intricate, like there's a lot of respect for the coffee in that process.
Exactly. It's often performed by women, a time for socializing, storytelling, showing hospitality. It's a way to honor how important coffee is in Ethiopian life.
What a beautiful tradition to connect with people like that. Any other unique coffee customs from around the world?
Oh, tons. In Turkey, they brew coffee in a sev, a small pot with a long handle. They brew it slowly over hot sand, makes a thick, strong coffee, served in tiny cups, often with a sweet treat like Turkish delight.
I've heard Turkish coffee is super strong, not for the casual coffee drinker.
It's definitely a bold brew, steeped in history and culture. And then there's Japan, where coffee's all about precision, craftsmanship, and that minimalist aesthetic.
I've heard of those traditional Japanese coffee shops, the Kisaten, right?
Yeah, they're known for their peaceful atmosphere. And the baristas are like artists. They hand drip each cup with such care, using techniques passed down for generations.
It's amazing how much dedication goes into it. It's more than just a drink. But aside from these traditions, coffee is also a huge global industry, isn't it?
Absolutely, one of the most valuable agricultural products in the world. The supply chain connects growers in developing countries to us, the consumers. Millions of people depend on coffee for their living.
It's good to remember that when we're sipping our coffee, we're part of something much bigger, impacting farmers and communities worldwide.
Exactly, and as consumers, we have the power to make ethical choices. Choosing coffee that's fair trade, sustainably grown, supporting fair wages, and responsible practices.
So those labels like fair trade and organic actually matter.
They really do. Every cup is a chance to support businesses doing things the right way.
Well, this has been an incredible journey. From the science of how coffee affects us, to the cultural side, the global impact. It's fascinating. I feel like I understand this drink in a whole new way.
I'm glad to hear that. Hope this deep dive inspires you to savor every cup, appreciate all those layers of flavor and the connections it represents.
Absolutely. So next time you're reaching for that coffee, take a second to think about its journey, the people who grew it, brewed it, the stories it carries. It's a drink that truly connects us all.
Cheers to that. Until next time, may your coffee be delicious and your explorations continue.